Hello and welcome to Practical Knife Reviews, but today it's not going to be Practical Knife Reviews, we're Practical Axe Review. So this is the Marbles Hunter's Axe. I believe the number was MR703. It does not come with this sheath. This is just some upholstery leather that I stitched together into a sheath. And it also doesn't come with this blade collar. You'll see in a little additional video I'll stick into here that I put the collar on afterwards for a very specific reason, and I'll tell you about it in just a second. But let me get the sheath off. The sheath was basically free, it was just the cost of material. Anyway, here I got some bank line that I put through this lanyard hole in the bottom here. It didn't come with the bank line, didn't come with this, again, just a upholstery leather that I had laying around. It was free. If you have nice leather that you want to send me, get in touch, I'll happily take some. But this is the leather I had, so that's the leather I used. Anyway, this is made in El Salvador. It's got 1045 medium carbon steel for the head, American hickory handle. I'll tell you why I put this on here in a second, but in any case, 1045 is basically like an indestructible carbon steel, and hickory obviously is a very, very hard wood. So yeah, I guess without further ado, let's just start chopping stuff. So first up, we got a pretty thin chunk of pine. If I can get it to stand. There. And the foot's right in the snowbank, so my foot is going to freeze. That's okay. Listeners, you're worth it. All, whatever, 40 of you that are going to tune in. Let's try one with, this is still pine, but it's got a little bit of a twist in the grain, so it's not quite as easy of a piece to split, but it's still pine, which is a soft wood. So you can see we can do just pine with this. So let's try some oak now. We'll start with, this is red oak, it's a hardwood, hardest wood we've got in our forest. This is a small piece. We'll start with this, nice straight grain, soft piece of oak. And I'll mention that this came relatively sharp out of the box. I split it, this didn't come apart. A little bit of a mishap. Anyway, it came relatively sharp, not super sharp. That's that pine. But I just took a file to it for a little bit. Really the dullest parts were right at the very top and the very bottom of the edge. It was a little bit blunt, but let's split this one first. So here we've got a little bit more oak, again a hardwood. We'll just show you that you can split through this without too much of a problem. And you can see there was a knot right in the middle there. We still went right through it. And now this will be the tricky one. Now this is really heavy. This is oak as well. You can see we got a flat surface. This is where the tree branched into two different trees. So the grain here is all squirrely. So this will be the real test of how this hunter's axe does. You see the grain here is really, really tight, but still able to split through it. See, the grain is all swirly and curly and gross. But yeah, this axe, the geometry is really good for splitting. I've split a fair amount of wood with this and haven't really had anything that I've had a problem with so far. The geometry is a little bit wide behind the edge, so it's good for splitting because it like wedges the wood apart, but it's not the best for chopping into a tree. You'll see in just a second what I mean using a tree that I chopped down yesterday with it. Anything else I want to say? So it's got this hammer pommel here. You can use that for pounding in tent stakes. It's just a short little axe. I'll give you the specs in the description, plus where to buy it. SMKW. This normally sells for $23 when it's not on sale. Right now it's on sale for $18.39 if I remember correctly. So overall, I don't know, you're not really going to get an axe, you know, a small axe, but an axe nonetheless. Much better than this for $18.39. But let me tell you about a few of the flaws. Well, I guess one major flaw. The main flaw is if you look at the grain, in certain places it almost looks like the grain is aligned parallel with the blade, which is what you want. But if you look all the way from the bottom to the top, you can see the grain is actually off at a diagonal. And it's like that all the way up. It's off at a diagonal like this. So what that means is that when you either overstrike, you know, you miss hit and the wood is actually catching down here, or because you have this shape of blade here, where the blade doesn't come down even with the throat here, or you don't have a collar. Scandinavian style axes typically have a collar that'll drop down to protect this section here underneath the beard of the axe. But what you have here is, even if you catch the wood clean, if it's a relatively thick piece of wood and it doesn't just split apart right away and you're just driving it through there, the wood will come up and make contact with the wood here. Now, hickory is a hard wood, and that really wouldn't cause much of an issue if the grain was aligned. But because the grain is off at an angle like this, what ends up happening is you're basically shearing off layers of the wood as you contact the wood here on underneath the beard. I don't know if that makes sense, the way that I'm explaining it. Am I explaining it okay, Ma?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, so yeah, you end up with like layers of wood coming off. You'll see in the next little clip that I'm going to insert after this what I mean, because I took a little video just before I stitched on this collar. I filled in some ripped out chunks of wood with epoxy, and then epoxied this collar on and sewed it on. So this isn't going anywhere, and I'm just using this to kind of cushion the wood a little bit on overstrikes, or when I am driving through a piece of wood that's going to make contact with here before splitting. Anything else I should mention, Ma?
No, but if it would have been yesterday, we might have had a bonus for them to see the wolf in the yard.
Yeah, there was a wolf in the yard yesterday. But anyway, I guess quick rundown again. $18.39 on sale, usually for $23. For my judgment, that's a heck of a deal. $10.45. It's not going to hold an edge forever, but you're not going to break it either. Very easy to sharpen. You know, just take a file to it, which is what I did before I cut down the tree that you'll see in not the next video, which will be this little thing, but the last video. I sharpened it up before I cut down the tree, and then I cut down this big oak tree with it to demonstrate that, yeah, it's not the best for digging into wood from the side, as in like this, but you can cut down trees with that. Nice polished and flattened hammer there for pounding in tent stakes or whatever. Really good for splitting. Hickory handle. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's pretty nice. Ma, why don't you give your thoughts on it, and then I'll just insert those last two videos to close it out.
Very practical little axe. Carries it around even in the nice wool jacket pocket. It fits in there fine.
Like on the Woolrich jacket and the Johnson Wool Mills jacket I have, they've got the little pockets down here on the hip area, and I literally can fit the axe head with the sheath on it inside the pocket and carry it like that. Yeah, so it's practical and still really functional. What do you think about the looks and everything like that? Oh, it's cool. What do you think about the price? Oh, the price is unbelievable. Yeah, to get an axe like that, it's nice. So that'll be it for the Marbles Hunter's Axe. Like I said, I think it's MR703. I'll have a link in the description for where to find it. And the next thing that you're going to see, although this is the last part that we're recording, the next thing you'll see is, before I put this collar on, this leather collar, And after that, you'll see me chopping into the side of the tree that I cut down yesterday to demonstrate how well it cuts in to cut into the side of wood rather than try to split through wood. Anything else that you want to add before we close this out, Ma?
Nope, it's a cold day. Let's go in.
Okay, in that case, we're going to close out this video of Practical Knife Reviews. I'll say take care, see you next time, but you are going to see those last 2 clips after this. So I'm going to be inserting this video into the middle of the review because I'm going to be doing something of a modification to this before we do the rest of the review. And so I want to make sure that I have this on here. This hunter's axe, Marbles hunter's axe, I've been testing it out because with an axe, it's hard to do a review without having quite a bit of usage on it. And what I can say is you can see the grain more or less lines up with the handle, but not completely. It's off at a diagonal, and because of that, when you would have overstrikes, or when you would hit it and the wood would come through here, it would contact with here, and since the grain wasn't aligned perfectly, what ended up happening is you were chipping off pieces of the wood where the grain would be at basically a diagonal. This layer basically came off in one sheet, and here you can see it was actually coming down pretty deep. So the first thing I do is I filled all of this with epoxy, and I'm going to put just a little leather protector around it. So when you see the part of the video before this that has that on there, I just took this video now so that you can see what this little flaw that I'll be talking about in the rest of the video is. Okay, back to the review. Give me a 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
So we're back looking at the Marbles hunter axe. This is actually the first part that we're recording, but we're gonna put it later in the video just because it makes more sense from a narrative standpoint. But this tree right here, I chopped down yesterday, but I didn't record it because it took a while and I didn't want to have this be a, 45-minute long video or anything like that. But we're just gonna chop into the side of this to kind of demonstrate how well it chops into a tree with the geometry of this blade. Because I sharpened it a little bit with a file, but haven't reprofiled it or anything like that. So you'll see how well you can chop into the side of a tree anyway, like this. That's good enough for this video. You'll see, or you can see that while it can chop into the side of it, it is a little bit bouncy. It doesn't really want to bite in very far. The geometry of this is much better suited for splitting, which you will have already seen in this video. But just wanted to demonstrate how well it goes into the side of a tree. This is oak, so it's a hardwood. It's naturally going to be harder for the axe, but even compared to other axes, it doesn't dig in quite as far. But yeah, it's good for splitting. So that's it for this clip.